Helene's fury unleashed, a trail of destruction, Hurricane Helene, a name whispered with fear, now etched in sorrow. This wasn't just a storm, it was a force of nature unleashed. It slammed into Florida's Big Bend, a Category 4 beast, winds howling, waves surging, coastal towns were swallowed by the sea, homes became matchsticks. Helene wasn't finished. It tore inland, its hunger for destruction insatiable. Across Florida, up through Georgia and the Carolinas, into the heart of Appalachia, it carved a path of ruin. Dozens of lives lost, countless dreams shattered. Torrential rains turned rivers into raging torrents. Flash floods ripped through towns, carrying away homes, businesses, and lives. Millions plunged into darkness, the eerie silence punctuated by the wail of sirens and the crackle of downed power lines. As dawn broke, the true horror of Helene's rampage became clear. Dazed survivors emerged from shelters or the wreckage of their homes, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. But even in the face of such devastation, the human spirit flickered. Isolation grips Asheville, a city cut off. Nestled amidst the Blue Ridge Mountains, Asheville, North Carolina is a city known for its vibrant arts scene and stunning natural beauty. But in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, beauty turned to devastation, and vibrancy was replaced by a chilling silence. Cut off from the outside world, Asheville became an island of despair. Helene's rains transformed the French Broad River into a raging torrent. Bridges crumbled and collapsed, their twisted wreckage swallowed by the floodwaters. Roads, the city's lifelines, were transformed into treacherous waterways. Power lines, snapped like twigs, lay draped across streets, cutting off access to entire neighborhoods. Cell towers, overloaded and damaged, fell silent, leaving residents unable to connect with loved ones or call for help. Yet even in this crucible of despair, the spirit of Asheville refused to be extinguished. Asheville, though battered and bruised, was not broken. Helene's path from Florida to the mountains. Helene's path of destruction was a stark reminder of nature's raw power and the vulnerability of even the most well-prepared communities. From its initial landfall in Florida to its final gasp in the Appalachian Mountains, the storm left an indelible mark. In Florida, the Big Bend region bore the brunt of Helene's fury. Coastal towns were transformed into disaster zones. As Helene churned northward, it continued to unleash its fury. In Georgia, torrential rains caused rivers and streams to overflow. In South Carolina, the storm spawned tornadoes that ripped through neighborhoods. The mountains, normally a source of strength, became a conduit for Helene's destructive power. Helene's path of destruction served as a stark reminder of the power of human resilience and the importance of community in the face of adversity. A glimmer of hope: federal aid arrives. As the initial shock of Helene's devastation began to subside, a glimmer of hope emerged: the arrival of federal aid. President Biden toured the disaster zone, promising swift and decisive action. A federal disaster declaration was swiftly approved, unlocking a wave of much-needed resources. FEMA sprang into action, deploying teams to the hardest-hit areas. Truckloads of bottled water, food, and medical supplies began to arrive at distribution centers. FEMA trailers, temporary housing for those displaced by the storm, began to dot the landscape. The Army Corps of Engineers dispatched teams to assess and repair damaged infrastructure. Power lines, painstakingly restrung, brought light back to darkened homes and businesses. The road to recovery was long and arduous, but the arrival of federal aid provided a much-needed boost of morale. The long road back, rebuilding after Helene. The floodwaters had receded, leaving behind a thick layer of mud and the stench of decay. The immediate crisis had passed, but the long and arduous task of rebuilding had just begun. For those who had lost everything, the road ahead was daunting. Homes once filled with laughter and love were now piles of rubble. Businesses, the lifeblood of communities, stood empty and silent. The emotional toll of the storm was just beginning to surface. Survivors, numbed by shock and grief, now faced the crushing reality of their losses. Yet even amidst the devastation, the spirit of resilience flickered. Neighbors helped neighbors clear debris, sharing tools and stories of survival. Slowly, brick by brick, board by board, the affected communities began to piece their lives back together. Record-breaking fury. Helene's place in history. Hurricane Helene will forever be etched in the annals of history as one of the most powerful and destructive storms to ever strike the southeastern United States. Its record-breaking rainfall and storm surge left a path of devastation that stretched for hundreds of miles. Meteorologists, analyzing Helene's path and intensity, struggled to find historical precedents. The storm's rapid intensification, fueled by unusually warm ocean waters, caught many off guard. Helene's impact on the scientific community was profound. It underscored the urgent need for better hurricane forecasting models and more accurate storm surge predictions. But perhaps most importantly, Helene's record-breaking fury served as a wake-up call for a nation increasingly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. It highlighted the need for better infrastructure and more resilient communities. Helene's legacy, though tragic, will hopefully be one of preparedness and resilience. A nation's embrace, sorrow, and support. In the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, the nation and the world responded with an outpouring of sorrow and support. From small towns to big cities, hearts went out to the victims of the storm and hands reached out to help. News channels provided round-the-clock coverage of the disaster. Social media platforms buzzed with messages of concern, offers of assistance, and calls for donations. Celebrities used their platforms to raise awareness and funds for relief efforts. Charities and aid organizations mobilized to provide assistance to those in need. The American Red Cross, Salvation Army, and countless other groups set up shelters, distributed food and water, and provided medical care. The response to Hurricane Helene was a testament to the power of human compassion and the bonds of community. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. The future rising from the ruins. The road ahead was long, but the spirit of the people of the Southeast was unyielding. The process of rebuilding, though daunting, was already underway. Amidst the rubble and debris, there were signs of hope, resilience, and a determination to emerge stronger. The first priority was to rebuild homes and businesses, to restore a sense of normalcy. Construction crews worked tirelessly, their hammers and saws a symphony of hope. But the rebuilding effort went beyond bricks and mortar. It was about rebuilding lives, restoring hope, and creating a more resilient future. Communities began to invest in more robust infrastructure, stronger building codes, and better early warning systems. The experience of Hurricane Helene had been a powerful teacher. Lessons learned, preparedness, and community. Hurricane Helene, in all its fury, left behind more than just destruction. It left behind valuable lessons, etched in the memories of those who survived its wrath. Lessons about the importance of preparedness, the power of community, and the need for collective action in the face of a changing climate. One of the most profound lessons was the critical importance of preparedness. Those who had heeded the warnings and evacuated when instructed were more likely to have weathered the storm with minimal losses. Helene underscored the need for every individual and community to have a disaster preparedness plan in place. The storm also highlighted the indispensable role of community. In the aftermath of Helene, neighbors helped neighbors and entire communities rallied together. The spirit of unity and compassion that emerged from the ruins was a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. The spirit of resilience, stronger than the storm. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered, etched in the landscape, in the hearts of the people. Hurricane Helene had tested the limits of human endurance, but it had also revealed the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. In the face of unimaginable loss, the people of the Southeast responded not with despair, but with resilience. They picked up the pieces of their shattered lives and began the arduous task of rebuilding. They drew strength from each other, from the bonds of community, from the belief that even in the darkest of times, hope endures. The spirit of resilience was evident everywhere. In the tireless efforts of first responders who worked around the clock to rescue the injured and search for the missing. In the generosity of volunteers who traveled from far and wide to offer a helping hand. Hurricane Helene had left its mark, but it had not broken the spirit of the people. A call to action, standing together. Hurricane Helene was a tragedy, a stark reminder of the destructive power of nature and the vulnerability of human communities. But it was also a call to action, a summons to come together to confront the challenges of a changing climate. The lessons of Helene were clear. We must heed the warnings of scientists and take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We must strengthen our infrastructure, improve our building codes, and invest in early warning systems. And we must strengthen the bonds of community, foster a spirit of compassion, and stand ready to help those in need. The task before us is great, but so too is our capacity for compassion, innovation, and collective action. By working together, sharing our resources, and supporting one another, we can overcome the challenges of a changing climate. Let the memory of Hurricane Helene be a catalyst for change, a reminder that we are all interconnected and that our strength lies in our unity.